My name is Emilia. I'm a 33-year-old stay-at-home mom. I've been married to Dylan for 6 years, and we have a 5-year-old daughter named Ruby. Since we got married, we've been living with my in-laws, Aaron and Scarlett. Both they and Dylan treat me more like a housekeeper than a family member. We live in Dylan's hometown, a quaint little farming community. The town is known for its close-knit, neighborly feel, common in agricultural areas. My in-laws are farmers, and ever since I married Dylan, they've piled farm chores, housework, and even neighborhood committee duties onto me. No matter how much I protest, they simply say, "It's the duty of a daughter-in-law." While the folks on the committee are nice, and housework is manageable, it's the field work that's particularly exhausting. I eventually got the hang of operating machinery like the combine harvester, but it was hard at first. Other tasks, like weeding, still tire me out. "You really are slow, aren't you? You act like you're some kind of aristocrat." "I'm sorry, Scarlett." "Move faster! With your awkward posture, weeding will take forever." "I'm sorry, Aaron." Every day was an apology to Aaron and Scarlett, whose words were cutting. Occasionally, they'd throw out harsh terms like stupid and inept, making me feel emotionally and physically drained. "Hey Dylan, could you please talk to Scarlett and the others? My body can't handle this." Dylan responded with a vague smile. "Come on, my parents are getting older. Help them out, we're family." That was his dismissive answer. But his expression shifted from casual to stern. "What else are you good for except the chores my mom asks you to do? You're in no position to complain." I couldn't respond to his cold gaze and words, managing only a forced smile and saying, "All right, I'll do my best." Usually, I would have had a retort, but by then, my senses must have been numbed. I had thought Dylan was the one, especially given his gentle smile before we got married. How quickly he changed after we tied the knot. I realized too late that his smile was merely a facade. While he never raised his hand to me, Dylan became emotionally cold and left me feeling isolated. The only blessing in my marital life has been our daughter. "Mom, Ruby is turning 6 next year and will be starting elementary school. After preschool, she runs to me and we embrace. As we hug, I stroke her head. I snap out of my daydreaming. "Mom, today at preschool, you know." This time, walking back from preschool with Ruby is the most peaceful moment of my day. "Mom, does your hand hurt?" Ruby looks at me with concern. I had a bandage on the hand I was holding Ruby's with, a scrape from working in the garden. "Thank you, but I'm fine." As I smile at her, Ruby's face relaxes. "You're late. You're spending too much time just picking up a child." We are greeted by Scarlett's sharp voice as soon as we step in the door. Ruby and I both flinch. I wish she'd at least greet Ruby with a "How was your day?" Scarlett, Dylan, and my in-laws have always been cold, not just to me, but to Ruby as well. I quietly tell Ruby to put down her bag. As Ruby heads to her room to escape Scarlett, I hear Scarlett snort. "Emilia, don't you plan on having any more kids? Ruby is already 5, you know, time for a baby boy." I internally sigh. Here we go again. My in-laws are traditional and have always nagged me about needing to give birth to a son. While I stand there grimacing, Scarlett seems to remember something. "Lillian and the whole family are coming for the summer vacation this year. Unlike you, she's a good wife and who's given birth to 2 sons. Show her some respect." Lillian is Dylan's sister and my sister-in-law. and she lives in Boston with her husband Stephen and their 2 sons, Leon and Glenn. They are as self-centered as my in-laws, and I find them hard to get along with. Leon and Glenn are no better. Their lack of manners is apparent. It's rare for Lillian to visit except for Christmas, so it's odd she's coming for the summer. The mere thought of the upcoming vacation gives me a headache, especially considering the friction between Ruby and Lillian's boys. Steven's a decent guy though, so that's a relief. Fine, I'll prepare their bedding. As I head upstairs, Scarlett calls out after me. Why not ask Lillian for some tips on how to give birth to a boy? My head heats up at her insensitive comment, and I feel dizzy. I turn back and see Scarlett's unsettling smile. Ignoring her, I go to my room and unlock my phone. The truth is, I have another source of comfort. Messaging with my first cousin, Nevea, who's like a sister to me. She's also a housewife and lives in Boston. We vent to each other about our families. We can't chat long because we both live with our in-laws. But these small exchanges are one of my stress relievers. I open WhatsApp to tell her about what just happened with Scarlett, but stop. There's already a new message from Nevea. Reading it, I'm shocked. About a month later, Lillian comes to visit for the summer vacation, bringing only her sons, Leon and Glenn. Scarlett tilts her head, puzzled by Lillian's actions. Hey, where's Stephen? Ah, he got caught up with some work. At Lillian's response, ah, that's a bummer. Well, make sure you all relax and recharge. Scarlett nodded in agreement. Let's play with water in the yard. Leon and Glenn tossed their bags by the door and dashed outside. Peering out, they had turned on the garden hose to full blast, splashing water all over the yard. If they keep spraying water like that, it's going to be tough cleaning the walls. And Aaron's cherished potted plants were nearby too. Unperturbed, Leon and Glenn happily splashed water and mud at each other. Wondering where Ruby was, I glanced around and saw her watching Leon and Glenn's antics from an upstairs room. Ah, I'm tired. Housekeeper, where's the food and coffee? You're as slow as ever. After tossing her bag in the living room and sprawling on the sofa, Lillian said this as she cranked up the air conditioner. I suppose by housekeeper you mean me. I silently poured coffee into a cup and set it down with a clatter in front of Lillian. A bit of coffee sloshed out of the hastily placed cup. The room fell silent, perhaps shocked by this uncharacteristic move. Excuse me? Do you even know your place? After a beat, Lillian glared at me, visibly angry. Dylan, who was nearby, looked surprised, and mother-in-law was also visibly angry. The old me would have apologized immediately, but today was different. Looking down at the seated Lillian, I finally spoke. Small world, isn't it? Your affair is with my first cousin's husband. You're done. Caught off guard by my sudden words, mother-in-law and Dylan tilted their heads, confused. But Lillian, right in front of me, was visibly shaken, her eyes wide and her face pale. To explain, let's rewind to the day I found out Lillian was going on a summer vacation. I was about to vent to my friend Nevea via text, when I received a shocking message, I'm getting a divorce. Concerned, I immediately texted back, asking if she was okay. I found out my husband is cheating on me. I'm tired and I'm considering divorce, Nevea replied. I could sense a myriad of emotions from her concise message. Can we talk tonight? She texted, and I agreed. That evening, after making sure the family was asleep, I quietly slipped out of the in-laws' house. I unlocked the small shed within the grounds of the in-laws' house, thinking it would be a good place to talk privately. It was a bit dusty, but that was the least of my concerns. Making calls inside the main house would just cause a ruckus and, worst case, my phone could get confiscated. I texted Navia that I was ready and received a call from her shortly after. "Hello." Navia's voice sounded nasal and muffled, likely because she had been crying. "Are you okay?" I had heard that Navia was going through a tough time, but I never imagined it would end in divorce due to cheating. As I'm pondering this, Navia starts to speak more calmly. She said there had been signs of cheating, but, like me, her self-esteem had been eroded by her husband, John, and her in-laws to the point that she couldn't say anything. One day, she wasn't feeling well during her daytime part-time job and decided to go home early. Although John and her in-laws were supposed to be out at that time, for some reason, John's bag and an unfamiliar parasol were at the front door. When she cautiously entered the house, she found John embracing another woman. The other woman didn't even flinch. She was surprised for a moment when she saw me, but then she grinned as if she had won. Navia continued. But that wasn't all. Apparently, John's affair partner was my sister-in-law, Lillian. I thought her face looked familiar. When I heard her name from John, I realized she was someone I saw at Emilia's wedding. Navia said. At this revelation, I was speechless. I heard that John was pretty infatuated with Lillian and was talking about remarrying her after divorcing Navia. When I heard that, I woke up. What am I doing? Navia said, then added, "So, Emilia, how about you and I free ourselves from all this?" I was taken aback by her sudden proposition. She explained that we should both divorce and start new lives. Navia's words would end up drastically changing the trajectory of my life. And that brings us to now. Upon hearing my words, Lillian's face turns pale and she trembles, while my in-laws angrily accuse me of making no sense. But when they see Lillian's face, they quickly realize the truth. My in-laws start interrogating Lillian. "Navia and I are like sisters. That's why I can't forgive you even more," I tell Lillian, then expose. "That's why Navia has consulted a lawyer to sue you for damages. Stephen found out about your cheating and fled home, didn't he?" My in-laws began to panic upon hearing lawyer and damages. They're probably worried about their social standing and money. Then Lillian, who had been pale until now, glares at me defiantly. "So what? Even if I come back to this house, you'll just be working as a legit housekeeper," she says. I just smile. "That's not possible. I'm divorcing Dylan too," I say and pull out the divorce papers with my signature on them. Dylan, who had been watching all this like it was someone else's problem, suddenly starts frantically switching his gaze between the divorce papers and me. Realizing I was dead serious, Dylan tore up the divorce papers into tiny pieces. "What will happen to Ruby? You think you can raise her on your own?" Dylan's voice quivered as he spoke, showing a rare glimpse of human emotion that I hadn't seen in a while. Forgot that I was a working professional before we got married. Actually, I've already got a line on getting back into my old job. Hearing me speak assertively, Dylan looked like a fish out of water, opening and closing his mouth in disbelief. Behind him, Lillian was getting an earful from mother-in-law while she rambled incoherently. And the sounds of Leon and Glenn laughing as they played in the muddy yard filled the air. I pulled out a spare set of divorce papers I had prepared for just such a moment. "I've also decided to file a claim for damages against you, Dylan and Scarlett. My lawyer will be in touch, so please direct all future communication to them." Dylan stood there in stupor, as if drained of all life. Navia had already consulted with lawyers she knew, and she introduced me to them. I paid the initial fee from my savings from when I was single and agreed to pay the rest from the settlement money. I made the time to meet with the lawyer, leveraging moments when I was out for community meetings. The recordings I had of mother-in-law and Dylan's verbal abuse, along with a detailed diary of what had happened, worked in my favor. The lawyer assured me this is definitely to our advantage. All the caution I had exercised, thinking it might help me one day if I decided to divorce, paid off big time. "Hey, don't make decisions without us!" Scarlett and the others noticed our conversation and started to confront me all at once. "Scarlett, Aaron, you've been so kind to me until now. I know the ladies in the community don't like Scarlett, but please do your best to build good relations with the neighbors after I'm gone." Maintaining my smile, I added, "And Aaron, maybe cut back on the affairs with young women and work together as a family. You'll need it." I subtly revealed Aaron's affairs while expressing my gratitude for everything so far. In a way, I truly am grateful to this family. I figured if I could manage with them, I'd be fine whenever I go. Upon hearing me, Scarlett and Lillian both turned their eyes towards Aaron. I had once witnessed Aaron cheating and had kept quiet about it. But now that we're getting divorced and becoming strangers, there is no reason to stay silent. While Scarlett and Lillian turned their ire towards Aaron, I walked past a stunned Dylan and headed upstairs. With just a few belongings and holding Ruby's small hand, I left the in-laws' house. As I headed toward the station, feeling more relieved than I felt in years, I ran into a woman who's known around here for loving gossip. I told her everything, what I had gone through and what had just happened. 2 months later, my divorce with Dylan was finalized. Nevia's was too. Dylan transferred more money into my account than he was required to, saying it was for mother-in-law, and I even received an apology letter from mother-in-law. I haven't responded. I have no plans to associate with them anymore. Thanks to the gossip-loving woman, they're now under criticism from the community, labeled as a morally harassing family abandoned by their sons' wives, and moreover, the daughter came back home after cheating. Apparently, mother-in-law had to sell off their fields to pay me and Nevia the settlement money. And I've heard that mother-in-law is now treating Lillian like a housekeeper. Right now, there is chaos due to Aaron's affair, as I found out through a call from Dylan. I ignored it. It's none of my business anymore. Ruby smiles much more now compared to when we were living at the in-laws. Right now, she's enjoying pancakes with a freshly divorced and cheerful Nevia. If it weren't for Nevia's intervention, I might never have awakened. From now on, I am living for Ruby's and my own happiness.